Morris.
Here.
Michael Mudge.
Here.
Chris Logston.
Here.
Ed Winshaw.
Here.
Brad Nixon.
Here.
Colleen Peterson here. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. Have a couple of updates. Number one, I just got this from Kim. For those of you who didn't know, but Dee Dee had some additional surgery, I believe yesterday. She's doing well, and I think she will be in and out of the hospital this week at some point, but keep her in your thoughts. She's at Western Maryland Health. So if you have any other questions about that, I think Kim has all the details on it. So we wish her well. A speedy recovery. I would also like to formally announce something you all know. You've gotten an email on it that Kim Folk is serving as our acting director. I want to thank all of you who responded almost immediately to my frantic email when I was on vacation about starting the process of having Kim named in that position. But I want to give a big shout out to the folks at DVM in particular. We have never been down, well, I certainly have never been down this process, working as an independent state agency with a volunteer board of directors, but it's a state position, and there were a lot of layers to go through, but there were several people at the state that were very, very helpful. It probably should have taken months to get this done. It took a little less than 3 weeks. So they did their job, and I want to thank all of you for agreeing to that. We can now run as an organization, get our bills paid, and all the other good things that need to be done. But and thank you, Kim, for agreeing to do this during this period of time. I have a couple of things that I wanted to throw out to the board and get your feedback on, and they have to do with how the board operates. So right now we're on a 6-meeting-a-year schedule, and I think for the most part we've had in-person meetings, at least for the little over a year that I've been chair. So I have had a suggestion that perhaps we might consider 3 in-person and 3 virtual meetings. That was a suggestion. We could do it all in person, we could do it all in virtual, but the suggestion was 3 and 3, and maybe do that on a rotating basis. So as an example, if we went with a rotating basis, the next one would be virtual, and then November will be in person, January virtual, etc. So I want to just, for your feedback, throw that out. Any thoughts on that? It's your board, so we want to manage it the way you want it to be managed.
I'm not just without my 2 cents. I think in-person meetings are better. Having said that, I'm not opposed to virtual meetings, but with the virtual option, weren't they all kind of virtual if you want them to be?
They could be.
So, I mean, the option's there. So anybody that doesn't want to come or can't come that particular day, and that can vary. I think personally, leave it as it is, just for that purpose. I think in person ultimately is a better way to communicate if it's possible.
Yes, I agree with Stu on that. I think in person is a better way to communicate, but offering the virtual option, you know, I think you're sort of doing both simultaneously, really.
I really miss seeing Rick.
Well, there may be a reason why we should just go.
Any other thoughts?
I like having the option of both. I fear that I'll miss things, just even like the phone number that you gave me earlier today with coming on virtually.
And to me, I mean, as long as there's no stigma on somebody that has to be on virtual, you know, it's like when I could go, you know, wait a minute, Michael was on virtually, you know, we gotta, as long as there's, you know, as long as there's really no judgment on the people being on virtual.
I agree with what everybody has had to say, but I will speak up. I am somebody where year by year, depending on what my classes are,
Sure.
I might not have somebody to babysit my kids, so I might need to hop on, but still be physically in the room to make sure that the teenagers are watched over.
Exactly. For people that are working, sometimes they could break away for just a meeting virtually but to literally be here physically.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have to leave 30 minutes early if I'm gonna get here physically.
Mhm.
Thankfully, my school's very accommodating, but each year it's a different fifth period. So you never know what you're gonna get until 3 weeks from now when I meet those kids.
No, I mean, I don't believe I've ever done a virtual when the meetings are in this room. I'm assuming with the equipment setup we have, that there is not an issue with someone trying to be, like with hearing everything that's going on or seeing everything that's going on. I assume everything is, communication is clear. Sometimes you're in a group situation, virtual sucks, quite frankly. So I'm assuming that's not the case. But I haven't heard anybody complaining they couldn't hear anything.
I think it was originally, but we upgraded numerous things to remedy the problem, so I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I think what I hear is we essentially offer both options now. So we'll kind of not make a change, we'll do what we're doing. The one thing that I would request is if you find that you need to hop on virtually, if you can just let the staff or me know, so that we're not, expecting to see you here and here, but you will join virtual. All right, thank you for the input. The other thing relative to board meetings is the preponderance of paper that we produce for the board meetings. Sometimes it's more than others. What brought this up is I noticed at the last meeting that almost everyone's board packets remained on the table. And I got to thinking, gee, I bring my own, I print it off at home, or I bring my iPad. So I just wanted to get some feedback on, do you think we need all the paper? What we have to produce is the agenda and the staff report. That has to be produced because if any member of the public, they need to have those documents when they're here. But I would love to have kind of your input on, do we need the other things, the financials as an example, anything else that would be in the board packet? We have a couple of lease proposals in there. We'll do whatever it is you want to do, but I want to be aware of how we can operate most efficiently. So again, we'll do what you want to do. This is your meeting.
I know for me, I read these drafts when you email them out, and I don't even look at this because I just assume that the draft has not been edited from what I read. For the financials, I do like seeing these in paper. I have trouble reading them on my computer. I might be the youngest person in the room, but I'm also a boomer when it comes to text, so I like having these to hold. But the minutes, I would say we could easily, because this just gets thrown away when I get home, if I'm going to be honest, because I read it when it comes through the email.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts? I mean, we can certainly keep it the way it is. As I said, the agenda and the staff report have to be printed for the public.
Yeah, but I'm going with Michael on the minutes, because obviously the fact that we get the packet beforehand, I mean, I think most of us have reviewed it before we get it. But definitely on the minutes, I see reasonable hard.
I'll tell you what, think about it. If anybody's had any other thoughts, please let me know. We have a couple of months before our next meeting, so plenty of time to make any changes. But I definitely just wanted people to kind of give some thought to, how many trees are out there, how many we want to save. I'm going to save the trees. So. All right, thank you so much. I think, speaking of the minutes, we are going into the agenda where we need some action. We're going to take a look at the minutes of the May 26, 2026 meeting. If there are any questions before I ask for a motion to approve. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Stu, seconded by James Morris. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstentions, the motion carries. Thank you very much for saying stand approved. Financials, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Nicole.
All right. So because the year is not been finalized, year to June is going to be red. Some of those numbers have changed a little bit. But for revenue, all tenants were current for May and June. We did collect over 5,500 for parking, which covers April and May, although we did May and June. We did receive a $12,500 grant for marketing for fiscal year 26. We also received $100,000 from the city for their portion of the sediment testing grant, which is a match for the ARC grant. And we did receive over 23,000 due to the building of the Mayor of Kingstown here. So all that. So total revenue tentatively was brought in at $187,359.59 for May and June. For expenses, we did have 2 pays in May and June. The majority of the payments were as expected. We did have several state payments, which were the enterprise budgeting system, which was $13,575 and $622 for the state personnel system. We did utilize the special funds for one janitorial maintenance contract payment. And we had a combined payment of $82,037.17 to GD&F for work on River Park. I believe it's split up with $59,000 and $22,000 in change for both. And we will receive a reimbursement from ARC and the county for the work that was being done. So regular operating expenses were paid out at $208,470.82. That's general fund and special funds. And then as always, the totals for each line item is at the left or the right of your paper. So that's how we stand.
This report looks a little bit different than the other ones. I had a chance to meet with Nicole, and actually Nicole, Crystal, Tim and I met because we were preparing for the board meeting. I think actually Nicole suggested she could list the most previous month, June in this case, but it can't be solidified until she gets her reports from the state, but at least gives you trend lines. So what we're approving today, hopefully approving, is the May report. But if you like this format where you're actually seeing the most recent month, you know, not for approval, I think it gives you a better sense of really where we are. So I appreciate, Nicole, you being able to do that. Anybody have any questions on the financials?
Since we are seeing June, but June is not final, does that mean that the totals also are not final?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there shouldn't be a lot of change, but we did have to adjust line items so they may not be the same. You see them at the next meeting.
Any other questions?
There's a large difference in like our actual versus the budget just for your total expenses. Is that because of the River Park project?
Yes.
I figured it was a question. Thank you. Any other questions? If you ever have a question about the budget, please do not hesitate to contact Nicole. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the financials for May 2026.
So moved.
Moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Or a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Thank you. Financials are approved. All right, the staff report is in your packet. We renamed it because it has never been just the executive director's report. It's always been the staff that work on all these things. So it's been renamed to the staff report. Hope you had a chance to look at it. If there are any questions about it, now's the time to ask. All right. National Park Service report. Ed.
Okay. Been a busy summer for the park. Certainly visitations up. All of our boat programs are in place and summer programming. Our park staff have been supporting other national parks up and down the East Coast and out west for the 250th, as well as wildland fires and other special events. So not only in our own park, but other places. The couple projects moving along there in the Harpers Ferry area. We're getting the staircase rebuilt back to the Appalachian Trail and across. That's happening this week. There's a shuttle running right now, and the stairway will be built here in the next couple of weeks. As the steers delivered here in Allegheny County, we had since the last meeting a successful fish rodeo in Old Town with lots of youth. Upcoming is National Park Week, August 22nd to the 30th, and then each of our visitor centers will have a Junior Ranger Day on the 30th of the month. And we have a lot of utility line projects going on park-wide, and then a couple First Energy upgrade applications that we've received for Allegheny County. So there's more going to be going up here in the future. Just receiving permits for. I think that's it, unless there's questions for it.
Thanks for that. Any questions? Summer is a busy time. All right, we're going on to old business. I'm going to turn this over to Brad for the executive director search update.
I believe the posting went up, state of Maryland, and on social media about 3 weeks ago. It closes on Thursday. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, but on Thursday, I hope to hear from DBM and get the applicants and get those out to the search committee members and start our work and turn that around pretty quickly. So it's kind of just sitting and waiting till Thursday.
What Brad doesn't tell you is the many emails going back and forth between Brad and the folks at DBM that are helping us to do this. But I want to thank Brad publicly for.
State of Maryland is wonderful, but it works at its own pace.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Brad's done a great job. Thank you, Brad. Anybody have any questions for Brad on that? All right. River Park update. I'm actually going to turn this over to Kim. She and I are going to tag team, but you do have something in your packet, right?
Yeah, so in your packet is a press release that will be giving to our media partners, following today's meeting, board meeting. And that's just an effort to the media partners call immediately after this board meeting anyhow. So it was decided that it might just be a good policy to just start, when we have an update, just go ahead and prepare the press release and have that ready. So so that's in your packet. Aside from the press release, we did have a meeting, myself, Colleen, some other CPPDA staff, Ecologics, met with State Highway Administration on July 21st. Andy and Bobby were working on some things that were requested from the State Highway Administration. As far as we know, everything has been submitted that was requested. So we're basically in a holding pattern, just waiting for permits and approvals to come back. That went well. Nicole, myself, and Amy from Ecologics met with Walter Higgins from the EPA about federal earmark. Amy was preparing that application for submission. I looked at the time I wrote this. I believe it's been submitted at this time. We also qualified for a waiver for the cost share for that earmark, which we didn't know about until that meeting. So Amy has applied for that as well. And from what Walter indicates, that goes by your county statistics. He indicated that it would be not a non-issue for us, that we pretty much just have to jump through the hoops and we would get that. So that was a very good, encouraging meeting. He said everything should be, processed for them through them in a month to a month and a half, which was shocking to me. but that's what he said. So and that's all I have. I don't know.
Well, I think we are just waiting to hear back on the work that Bobby Smith, engineer of the city, and Andy, who is with GDNF, our architectural consultant. It has been a very interesting, not the right word, learning process going through this initial phase of building the river park. We have learned a lot, but I remain extremely excited about what this project is going to do for our region, and we'll continue to work through all of the labyrinth of regulations. I know he's in the audience. Chris Stevens was extremely helpful with the National Park Service, along with Ed, as we learned for the future phases of the project, all of the agencies that need to be involved. So where we have learned how to do things better, we will certainly apply those to the future phases of the project. And Chris, thank you very much for the work you did in bringing those agencies together. But hopefully, as Kim said, it will be helpful to you as the board and for the community if we do these updates, at least on an every other month basis for the board, to keep you apprised of where we are with that. So, all right, anybody have any questions on that? All right.
You go back to my things. I was remiss in not thanking staff for getting me graphics to put out for the social media. That was a very quick turnaround, and just thank you for that.
Thanks, Greg. All right. I think that concludes our old business. New business, several items. The first is the approval of the boundary expansion plan. Before I turn it over to Kim, I came on board in May of 2025, and you were already about a year and a half into this process. I guess that should have been my first inkling that things take quite a while to happen. Many of you offered comments on the several iterations of this plan. I have counted just in my time 4 iterations of this plan. So every time we look at it, we improve it a little bit more. We're at the point now where we're asking for the board's approval of this plan. It is such a big document that when I met with staff, I asked, as soon as that final draft was ready, send it out to you. So that was about 2 weeks ago that you got that, knowing that we were probably going to have a few final changes to it. It's much easier to take a look at a draft and then say there's like 10 or 12 final things. So that's what is in your board packet right now. Those few, I think there are 9 or 10 minor changes that will just be layered on that big draft that you got a couple of weeks ago. And so hopefully you've had a chance to look at those, look at the draft, look at those final changes. And Kim, I don't know if there's other things you want to share with that process.
I'll just reiterate what I already previously said, was just a reminder that MHA instituted the 3-year action plan because this is so enormous, for lack of a better word. It's so the action plan, everything in the action plan comes from the management plan. So just kind of to make it, easy to understand, this is something that will be put on the shelf and be pulled out whenever we have to update our 3-year plan, which is the plan that we will really use in our day-to-day operations. But everything in the 3-year plan, action plan, comes from this bigger plan. So
And you already saw that 3-year plan. I think a couple of
It was
meetings ago
approved,
you
yeah.
approved it in March, I think. Yeah, so this is the big one. 3-year comes from the big one. It's our operations plan, it's the 3-year plan. So one of the things that I talked to the staff about is since we do have a 3-year action plan that the board would be able to see on a regular basis and at least look at that action plan once a year, focus in on it, what's been accomplished on that. So we're going to institute that going into this next year. All right. Any questions before we go ahead and get a vote on this? Happy to answer what we can. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the boundary expansion plan.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for working on that. Mini grants, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kim.
Okay. So my apologies right off out of the gate. Since this information went out, I pulled the Allegheny Museum grant, because it really did not, it needs some work and it didn't fit into any of our applicable, acceptable expenditures. So I've emailed Vic. You'll probably see this one come back around in probably an email vote, because he just needs to tweak his budget basically. But I didn't think it wasn't ready to come before you guys. So the other one that we do want to approve today is for Cumberland Cultural Foundation, the Gilchrist. And this is, they're basically asking for funding for the same thing we funded last year, really, which is, they tweaked it a little bit, but it's an event that they hold during Heritage Days. And this year's event is a historical art walk and community event during Heritage Days. And they are highlighting the transportation era in all of their art. And they're also partnering with the museum to bring in historical pieces in addition to the art this year. So that was a nice addition to the event. They are asking for the full amount, $5,000, and they did a great job with their grant last year. So we are asking for this one to be approved.
Anybody have any questions about that? Is there a motion to approve for the Cumberland Cultural Foundation, $5,000? Motion to approve that? So Laura, move. Is there a second?
No second.
Ashley, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries. Because Kim mentioned the Allegheny Museum grant and this, we'll go back to get some tweaking. Are there any questions about that before we? Okay. As I mentioned before, we have a couple of lease-related proposals. The first is from Wheels Up. It's in your packet. If you received it in advance, and I'm going to turn this over to Stu.
Thanks, Colleen. Is Mandela not going to?
You know, we invited him to come, but I don't think he is. I don't know if he's online though.
Can we look to see if he's already since we started? Is there a way to look to see if he's trying to get in since we started? I just want to make sure. You seem pretty adamant on the front doors.
Yeah, that's,
I would say if he's not here, something came up with his business.
I just want to double check.
If you're a business, things come up every day, so. We know that.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, Colleen and I met with Mandela, on July 14th, I believe it was. A couple things, it was a very good meeting. First of all, the opportunity to meet Colleen and reviewed his business and talked about his challenges and his successes and all that stuff. It was very similar to the meeting that Dee Dee and I had with Mandela several months ago. He did ask for a few things specifically, which is what you see before you. Number one is capital investment reimbursement. Basically, he's requesting a credit equal to 50% of the capital investments made to lease space. There's a item from the past, the window in the front. If you're not familiar with the building, there were two small windows there that were basically useless in the past, and he had a nice display window put there. One of the things about the way the building was designed is that there is no front or back or whatever to that whole thing. Like when you're pulling in, when you're walking in from the parking lot, is that the front or is the front on the other side? So anyway, having said that, it does pose a challenge for a retailer. I'd say the exposure. The windows are a very nice job. My personal opinion is things that enhance the space to improve the viability of a tenant that's there currently and any future tenants. I mean, it's something that we would do on our own that makes sense. Why not just pay for half of it? Right. So the tenant wants to pay for half of it and we'll pay for the other half. So on a case by case basis, if it makes sense and mutually agreed upon, he would reimburse. So he's asking for a reimbursement of the window that he already did. The second thing was exclusivity for bike operations in his lease. Now, basically, exclusivity is fairly common in the retail world. Some of the things that we got to consider, obviously, in a general sense, are what specifically is the tenant asking exclusivity for? And then second, sort of the geographic area, and again, we'll talk about that, and then any other considerations. So let's do the biggest ones. So number one, he did get very specific. If you looked, it was specifically bike operations. There's a bike shop, bike rental, and bike repair services. That is it. That's all he's really asking specifically for. Obviously, the grounds under our purview are just the shops at Canal Place. So that's the geographic region. Specific services he wants to provide. This differed from a previous understanding I had with him from our first meeting several months ago, where there was some discussion around the river project and what future business would come from the river project. So, as you know, Mandel does a lot of things. He's an outfitter. He does a lot of things. My understanding from the general feeling from the first meeting was sort of anything that happens on the river project, he wants to do because that kind of fits his business model, right? So which is fair, but a bit much to ask for in exclusivity. So he did narrow it down just to bike shops and bikes. So if we want a bike shop, I think it's fair. We don't have another bike shop that's directly competing with him. Having said that, the capacity issue has come up. Suppose we have a situation where things just take off and the current tenant can't keep up with demand, and that's a discussion for a future. This will be in for the life of the lease. So 3 years is a long time if that's what he agrees to do. I think we could have it if he really wasn't satisfying the demand of strictly the bike operations. I think we could probably have that conversation. It's a legitimate question. Having said that, again, he's not an outfitter. He's not going to be providing canoes. He may be, but he's not asking for exclusivity on any of the river park activities or anything else, just bike operations. I want to say that about 15 times only because we need a bike shop, and that's the perfect location for it. And I think it's fair. So I think that's it. So any questions about that?
So when we do this, we'll just be doing it for the current lease period.
He's going to be, we're in question of renewing his lease.
Okay.
Yes,
For the renewal of his.
Correct.
Okay. And it's a 3-year period?
He has asked for 3 years.
Okay.
He would agree to a 3-year should we, if we're agreeable to his.
Okay.
Is there any affirmative prescription on us entering into any kind of exclusivity agreement as a as an agency?
I mean, Adam, has looked into it from a legal standpoint and we're fine with that. I just,
Shaking his head.
yeah, yeah.
He did interpret that policy.
The thumbs up.
Lawyer to lawyer.
Yeah, from the
Surrounded by lawyers.
That's how I word it.
Or with hands.
Both lawyers were ready to jump in.
Yeah.
That's right, ready to bill you for it too.
I mean, one thing, I mean, again, that's going to be fairly common
Yeah.
in the retail world, but again, we need to be specific about what we're asking for. You know, again, it's just one of those things. I can't think of anything else. I think it's like the first time we've done exclusivity, at least as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if that's true or not. It's not the first time. Oh, okay.
We got rid of those because they were a problem.
So for number one, I don't have a problem in principle with us matching capital investments made because it improves our properties. I would say that we probably should have some kind of yes or no approval of that. They can't just go do it. I would assume that the lease already has wording in there about modifying the property. I'm torn about retroactively approving something that was done without asking us. I totally agree. That is a building where what would be the architectural front is staring at the back of the building in front of it. So I totally get a display is needed. But I just kind of I don't like the idea of somebody doing a thing and then asking me to pay for it later, or in this case, the whole organization. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm A-okay with 50% of capital investments, we helping foot that bill. Assuming that we are able to approve that. As far as the exclusivity goes, I don't got a problem with that. From a practical standpoint, I don't even know how many other bike shops we could squeeze into that layout that we have down there right now. Like there's just a degree of practical exclusivity that he's going to have. But especially now that he's pinned it down to just bike rentals, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. As long as he's aware that it's just for the bike operation. And if we want to rent it out to some other kind of outdoor outfitters, I know there's an outdoor kind of shop on Baltimore Street. If they wanted to move in, they would be free to do so. Like, as long as it's clear that it's just with bike operations.
With regards to the window, and I'll ask staff or anybody else that's involved in conversations. That, my understanding is the window wasn't a complete surprise that he sprung on us this summer. I believe there were some discussions prior to him doing it, and I don't think it was ever decided or agreed upon. But matching capital improvements to a space is this is not the first time he's asking for it, specifically in his for what he's doing. But we've done it in the past, and a mutually agreed upon improvement. We've done it. This isn't the first time. I do not know. I will not say that it was ever told to him that he would get reimbursed. I know the conversation happened. So it's not a complete surprise. I'm not sure the history exactly with that window. To be honest with you.
It also, 13,000 was not the final number. 10, what was it?
10, or something like
Okay,
that.
just as a subject,
Yeah.
that's not the
I think
the number.
Right. I think
Request
what
some
we
additional receipts to come up to that amount. I haven't seen those. I don't know if anyone else has seen those, but
I think it would be 50% of the receivable expenses.
Right. Which is 10
or something, right?
5. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Does the authority currently have any existing policies regarding tenant improvements?
Well, I asked that very question, Ashley, and apparently we don't. So there will be, Stu's committee, the real estate committee will be embarking on that journey to come to the board with some policies to guide us, and with our legal counsel, of course, helping in that. But
Yeah.
it would be much easier for the board to consider these in the future if we knew what boundaries we had. We'll be taking a look at that. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's almost as if before a project is initiated, it's approved for the match. And that would be something similar to that would be added into it that'd be good.
So then a more practical follow-up thought to that would be, as far as the window goes, do we have the funds to match that if that's what we choose to do? And then moving forward, how would that affect our overall budget? Would we need to create a line item for that? Some practical questions that I think we should answer before we commit to anything in writing and signatures put to paper.
Are you talking about this specific example or?
The window specifically, but in general, I think we should square that circle before we go there.
I think what typically happens in the real world, not being a state agency and all that stuff with the shops can help with, but in reality, most of those things are negotiated going into the lease. So as an example, if we knew we had 3 months left on his lease and he wasn't going to renew it, no, we're not going to spend 50% on the improvement you need. So again, it's not in writing, it's just having conversation. You're going to have a 3-year renewal, you're in for 3 years, I mean, and it's case by case, this would be, in my opinion, would be a reasonable expectation, but you're going to negotiate it in the beginning. Because if again, I don't mean any disrespect to those that design the shops. They're not very practical. Putting it nicely. So for a real world retail shop to function, the shops may look nice physically, but they just aren't the best. So any improvements we can do to make them more retail friendly and competitive with other properties in the direct competing region, across the street, hence across Mechanic Street. But again, they're just not the best space to do business, very public business. I mean, honestly, I'm feeling we'll get those shops filled, and we need to market a little bit better. We need to push it a little bit better. The demand on Baltimore Street now that the street is finished, and the vibe that is now downtown in general, there's absolutely no reason why the shops can't benefit from that vibe. Not to mention the improvements made to River Park. So we'll get this filled.
I will say that the meeting that Stu and I had with Mandela, I think for folks doing, I don't know, just give my reaction, raised on my priority list for the board to focus in on the role we play as landlord. We have tenants in this building. We have the shops at Canal Place. If you have those two categories and the National Park Service, that constitutes 46% of our operating budget. That's a significant part of how we operate. It's also a significant responsibility that we have. So, I'm not kidding when I say the real estate committee is going to have some work to do to help the board understand how we can best serve in that role. It's unlike any other heritage area in the state that we have this. So it's an add-on to the responsibilities, but it's an important responsibility. I appreciate the comments people and the thought that people are bringing to the table, because we definitely need to understand better what our responsibilities are, how we can help these businesses grow. It grows our community, helps everyone. So, any other thoughts on that? Again, this is, we're beginning to really start to understand this a little bit better, but we do have this particular proposal. Any other comments on it before we take a vote on this? And if it's all right with everyone, we're going to vote on the single proposal that has two aspects to it. If that's all right. And I would entertain a proposal to a motion to accept the proposal. Stu is chair. Do you want to make that?
I wasn't sure I could, but so moved.
You can. All right. Second, is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay.
It was all confident of you.
All right, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Stu, for presenting that. There is a second proposal. I'm not going to ask Stu to present this because this came in after Stu and I had a chance to meet with Mandela. I did see the proposal. We did an outreach to see if they wanted to add anything to the proposal. They did not, so it's got to stand on its own, and I'm not even sure. You can read the letter there. They're proposing the lease be renewed for 1 year at the current rate, no increase for 2027. 2026 has seen numerous challenges in the marketplace and in tourism. It's not only impact the winery and distillery, but have been felt widespread by many other businesses, and we would appreciate the help with keeping our rent at the current rate for this coming year. So just to give you a little framework, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, particularly Crystal, because I think she handles this, it's typically a 2% annual increase in the lease rate. Is that correct, Crystal?
For the shop area, that's.
Yeah, for the shop area. So that's the only background I have.
So is the escalator built into the lease agreements for each business?
Pardon?
Is that escalator currently built into the lease for all the businesses?
So for the shops. at
For
the shops.
this particular one, it equates to $13
It would be an additional $13.59 a month if he were to get a 2% increase.
So that's what we're talking about.
to put it in perspective.
I can look at that both ways. It's not enough to worry about for us. It's not enough to worry about for him.
For now, just have a comment. This is the first time I'm basically familiar with it as well. We have not spoken to him directly about this, as Colin indicated. I think the increase in and of itself is obviously is in and of itself out of a problem with necessarily waiving it, other than we're opening a can of worms. My bigger concern, regardless of dollar amount, is I just, again, theoretically asking for an increase just because I can't afford an increase this year. I think a little more than spending is down in the region, because I'm not sure exactly that equates to reality across the entire region, especially downtown lately. Having said that, I would like some more details from the tenant on what specifically this year happened, what's going to be different next year. Is it just, well, if there's better traffic downtown, I'll be better. I don't know what that answer is. So, okay, fine. If things are down, I don't, if I could pick an event that I thought happened community-wide that or nationally that really the national trend was down on certain types of spending, I'd be like, well, okay, we understand it's been, COVID happened or something like that.
Half a decade ago.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the challenges the tenants are having. What are we going to do to correct that for next year? Or we're just going to, we being the tenant and us, to, what's going to be different next year?
To me, you're like Stu says, you're sort of opening up this can. If you allow it for one, then every other tenant there is going to say, hey, we're going to be getting a letter next week from every tenant saying, hey, it's been kind of tough this year. I'd like to keep it where it is. And that increase I don't see as
Is he finishing the 3-year lease and just asking for a 1-year renewal, or do we typically do 3-year leases and should he be signing a 3-year lease?
No, he's just done a year at a time.
Yeah, lately.
Like,
He has done longer leases previously. It's really up to them what they want to do. The increase happens if they have a 5-year lease, they're still getting a 2% increase every year in that 5-year lease. If they do 5 1-year leases, they're still getting a 2% increase. So the only thing that is beneficial to them having a longer lease is they know they're there for that time frame.
Well, so do we.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I'm not sure what his,
He also downsized this year
right,
from a
2,400.
much larger, right? So is he, in his mind, like to what Stu said, like a conversation probably should take place. Is he thinking that 2% in his mind is like, is he, whatever his 2% was in the bigger space? And now does he even realize he's talking about $13? You know, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
But he did downsize and, save to bundle money.
when does the lease actually need renewed? Like, do we have time if we push this off 2 months, have a conversation with him? Do we've got that kind of wiggle room, or does this
That's a
need?
crystal question.
And actually what happens is, Department of General Services has requested the documentation as it's a pretty lengthy process.
Okay.
So they have to have everything signed and down there. And there's before 2 meetings before it's actually due. So his expires on December 31st.
Oh,
So then you
Oh, so
incorporate holidays and that kind of thing. And so my goal, since I started doing the leases, is I check with them early on so they don't go into holdover status,
Right.
because then they have to pay the 125% during that time. So that, so I try to do them early because we do have so much going on.
Right.
So that's a reason for that.
So I think the short answer is it's probably time to move it to September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
With, and I think again, one of the things I've really appreciated sitting down with Mantella face to face. I think just as a practice, as we have these that come in, any lease related, that having a personal conversation with the tenant is the best way to go. Because it's just like the conversation we had about in-person meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
What you read in a person's body language and just what they're willing to tell you
Yeah.
is far different than what they're willing to put in anything else. So, moving forward, as these come forward, I think it calls for a conversation. And I'm certainly more than willing to do that. I think Stu is as well. As the real estate
The chairman of the real estate.
I mean, every business is different. I mean, obviously, it is good for us to hear their challenges. We benefit from them being there. We want them there. And there's probably things we could be doing better to help them be viable. More than we're doing. There's always something we can do different. And same for the tenant. So, but until we talk to them and understand, to this point, most of us in this room have never operated a business in a retail shop, especially in Canal. So until we hear what their challenges are or what's working for them, or they think would work for them, we don't know.
All right, so let's come back to the proposal, the request. Because there's a lot of conversation, but we need to deal with the request, knowing that, Stu has offered, I have offered to actually talk to Chuck about his proposal, and that we do have time to reconsider it at a future meeting before the escalating fee comes into play. So with those things in mind, are there any more questions or comments on the proposal before I entertain a motion? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
Can we still make a motion to postpone?
Yeah.
Table it.
Decision.
We can, yes. So there is no motion to approve. Is there could be
Make
a
a
motion?
motion to table the vote on this until more information is gathered.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion to table?
I'll second
Michael
that.
seconds that. When I ask any other questions, people understand what we're doing here? Tabling. All right, all in favor of the motion to table to get further information? Say aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, that motion carries. It has been tabled. We will take it up at a future meeting. All right. Okay. I think that concludes the regular business. Is there any comment from the public? I think the public consists of mostly virtual. So would love to have any comments. Silence is golden. All right, thank you very much. All right, the next meeting is scheduled for September 29th, 1:30. It will be in person. Virtual option exists. And is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your time. Wonderful.
Yeah.
No,
You might get concession. That's interesting.
well, it's just that it didn't,